Hey.
You're listening to Big Talk with Big Nate, brought to you by The Daily Goat, your go-to place for the latest news in baseball.
And strike three called. They haven't been to the World Series since 2000, and the Mets are on their way back.
Football.
Rex Ryan said, I have to be better than Bill Belichick on one day. Put it on the two of them early in the week. There was that early interception that certainly changed the momentum to Harris play. Didn't lead the points, but it looked like right out of the gates that the Patriots were going to be taking it down and scoring. It was a whole lot tougher for that offensive unit the rest of the day.
Basketball.
Lynn puts it up. Bang! Jeremy Lin from downtown, and the Knicks take the lead. Amazing here at the Air Canada Center.
Movies.
Avengers!
Assemble.
And TV shows.
I'm Daredevil.
And now the host of Big Talk with Big Nate, Nate Olshan.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Talk with Big Nate, and I'm here with a special guest, Hannah. How you doing?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Yeah, it's good to be on. I know that you're a huge fan of the Batman.
I am.
Robert Pattinson as well. The movie's coming out. Really hyped about that. But tell me about yourself. Like, what have you been doing? I know that you were with Cinemania World. And that's
yes. I'm a part of Cinemania World. I do the live show over there and a bunch of other things. And then I have a podcast of my own with my friend Kenzie called Robert Podcastin'.
Nice.
And we just talk about everything Robert Pattinson.
That's cool.
So very big fan of Robert Pattinson. And yeah, I just love movies.
yeah, me too. Big superhero movie fan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's what got me into movies, is superhero
Yeah,
movies.
me too. Yeah, I think I remember like 2008 when Iron Man came out. I was little and I was like, oh, this seems pretty cool. Saw it and I was like, I love this. I want to see more of this. And here we are. We've seen like 23 other Marvel movies later, and it's awesome.
Yes, love it so much.
Yeah. So let's get right into the Batman. So Robert Pattinson was cast in like summer of 2019, I think.
It was like 2 years ago now, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was a huge fan of him before. I've seen him in a bunch of like small indie films, and I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, I don't want Robert Pattinson. He's the Twilight guy. He's terrible." But they've seen him in like nothing since Twilight, and yeah, like all of his movies that he's done since, he's been great.
It's even more frustrating when you think about how he isn't even like the worst part of the Twilight movies. I love Twilight, by the way. I love those movies to death. But like when you think about the issues of Twilight, he's nowhere near like the top of my list. Like he's perfectly fine in the movies. So very weird.
Yeah, he was fine in them. It was I don't understand it. And then he was in Water for Elephants, which he didn't have a big role in that, but Good Time, he was perfect in that. Cosmopolis. And then the most recent one, The Lighthouse. Did you ever see The Lighthouse?
Oh my God, I love The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
I love it. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. It was awesome. I feel like that movie, a lot of people were like, okay, Pattinson, see how he is. I was hyped for it. One of the reasons why was because I felt like people were going to see Pattinson finally and be like, okay, this guy's awesome. Can't wait to see him as Batman. And then that movie was awesome. It was weird.
I love weird movies. That's like my ish right there, is like weird, just like out there horror. And that's exactly what The Lighthouse is. But yeah, I feel like The Lighthouse definitely, I feel like Good Time, The Lighthouse definitely like kind of put him back on a lot of people's radar as like, oh, Robert Pattinson, he was in Twilight, but also he's a really great actor. So I love those movies for that alone, but also they are great movies.
Yeah, and he was really good in Tenet too.
Oh my God, amazing. Him and John David Washington need to work together again, like ASAP.
Yeah, I really want to see like John David Washington like join like Marvel or join DC or something like that. I feel like he'd be perfect.
I feel like he'd be a great Reed Richards. I know a lot of people has fan cast him as Reed Richards, and I'm like, I love that so much.
Yeah, I would be so down for that. Or Jon Stewart in Green Lantern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, like so with the Batman, like obviously there's Pattinson, there's Colin Farrell, and his look for the Penguin, that's really interesting. I didn't recognize him at all in that trailer.
I know a lot of people I remember when the trailer released, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, that's like Colin Farrell, and everyone's like, that's definitely not Colin Farrell. Like, you're insane if you think that's Colin Farrell. And then we had to wait until the makeup artist came out and confirmed that it was Colin Farrell for all of us. And that's just like not at all any of us were expecting, because I know when he was cast, a lot of people were like, oh my god, we're gonna get like sexy Penguin, and I was like, yes, like I was so excited. But you know, little disappointed that we didn't get that, but also at the same time, like, I love Colin Farrell. He's one of my favorite actors working right now, and he's such like a character like actor, so I'm so excited to see him do Penguin.
I feel like he's gonna be great in that role. Like, he was obviously with Ben Affleck in 2004's Daredevil, and that movie was really bad, but he was an interesting bullseye.
I like campy like superhero stuff, so I think that's exactly what that falls into. So I have a little appreciation for that movie, especially Colin Farrell, because it seemed like he was like one of the only people who knew what kind of movie he was in. So love him for that.
And then we have Paul Dano as Riddler, and I don't know, did you see that leaked photo that came out with his mask and everything?
Yeah, he looks a bit like Hush. And people have been saying that since the trailer dropped. And honestly, I'm very into the look, actually, because Matt Reeves has like cited, you know, Fincher, like Zodiac, as being kind of some of his inspirations for the movie in Seven. So, you know, when you see that image, immediately what I think is like serial killer. So it very much is like prevalent in those like influences. And I think it's really spooky and scary. And I think it's a cool like kind of way to make, you know, this Riddler stand apart from Jim Carrey's Riddler. I mean, even like movies itself, obviously they're very different tones, but I like when directors come in and say like, hey, I don't want to do something that's like expected or is going to be the same as what's already been done. So I really appreciate it.
I feel like his look was really interesting. Like, it's kind of like a more like modern take a little bit, and I feel like it's just really cool to kind of just see something that isn't like kind of cheesy, like a green jacket with like the question marks all over it. Like, did people really think that's what we were gonna get? It's like
some people did.
Like, yeah, they did, and I was like, no. But I'm a really big fan of Matt Reeves. I really like a lot of his movies, and him being involved in a Batman trilogy, and hopefully more than that. But him doing a Batman movie is really cool, and I just can't wait for his vision and seeing what these characters look like. I think it's just neat to get different takes on them.
Yeah, and just like the way that he talks about, like, I was excited when he was announced to direct the movie, but now like after hearing him talk about the film and just like talk about Batman as a character, it's made me even more excited, because you can just like tell how passionate he is about this movie and the character itself. And like when directors like radiate the kind of passion, it's like it's gonna show in the filmmaking. So I'm just so psyched.
yeah, I can't wait. And Zoey Kravitz playing Catwoman, I think that's perfect.
It is
really hyped for that. Yeah, and like a lot of people were like, again, all upset about her costume. It's like it's her like prototype kind of costume. It's like her first costume. It's like it's not even really a costume. It's just like a hat with eyes cut out. And it's like, come on, I'm sure we'll get something better by the end of the movie, or
for sure.
Something. But wow. But
and I don't even think it's bad. Like itself, honestly. I mean, when I watched the trailer for the first time, I wasn't like, oh, like that's awful. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's like her little like hat. It's first year, like
yeah, like they've said, like the movie pretty much takes place in like year 2, year 1, or something like that. So obviously, I think
it's year 2 for Bruce, and then year 1 for the rest of the villains. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, and we're getting that HBO Max GCPD show.
Yeah,
and that I think takes place in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that'll be neat to see that. But yeah, I'm a fan of what we've seen so far with all this stuff. I'm glad that we're not seeing like another trailer or something like that right now. Like, it's good. We haven't seen too much, because we don't really know much about like the plot and everything, in which I'm fine with. But it's gonna be interesting though to see where they go with it, and like what they do with Bruce, like with like in that final scene of the trailer where like the Riddler saying, "You're a part of this." And
oh my god, yeah,
that's awesome. That's really cool. I know like a big fan theory in like the comics world for years has been that the Joker is Bruce Wayne's brother.
Oh, wow.
They could do that with like, maybe they could do that with like the Riddler.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that we have this movie and we like don't really know like anything about it so far. And I hope it like stays that way until we get to see the movie. So I hope when like new trailers do come out, like we don't really get like a like full like trailer, like plot trailer. So I'm hoping, praying that we get to like keep this mystery.
Yeah. Like, I know one thing that came out at the DC fandom event last August. Walter Hamada, he's a interesting guy, but so he said that the Batman takes place on Earth 2, which for me, when I heard that, I was like, okay, multiverse. DC is all about the multiverse. It's like part of it for me, kind of like my excitement kind of went down a little bit because I'm like, I just wanted it all to be on like one Earth and all that stuff, everything connected like that. But what is your like? What are your thoughts on that?
I like when we have like solo kind of standalone stories, so I don't mind this. It's just like the multiverse thing that kind of makes me a little bit disinterested, because I'm like, why can't it just be like solo? It doesn't have to be multiverse. You can just say like, this is separate from everything and this is its own story. And I would love that. And I think, you know, movies like Joker and the Batman, they don't have to have like any like interconnectedness.
And the like with the Flash movie having what 2 or 3 Batmans now, it's like Keaton's being brought back, Affleck's gonna be there, which is interesting. Hopefully we see more of him. I was a big fan of Batfleck. But Keaton coming back though, I'm like, okay.
Keaton's my favorite Batman.
Really?
So
okay.
I am so here for him coming back, and also with Andy Muschietti. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
That's it.
I am a huge like It Chapter 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I love that.
So with him helming the movie, it just makes me so excited, and for him to like be working with Michael Keaton, and he's my favorite Batman, it makes me so psyched, and like actually made me have faith in the Flash movie, because before this it just like ran through so many directors that I was like, oh my god, I'm like over it at this point. But once they brought Andy on board, I was like, okay, I'm back in. So I have hopes for that movie.
I'm hopeful. I think it'll be good. I really like that DC with like a lot of the movies they've gone with some of their horror directors through Warner Brothers. Like they have
James Wan,
and the guy that does Shazam, his name's
David Sandberg.
Sandberg, that's it. And then obviously Hamada, he produced a lot of James Wan's horror movies. So it's interesting that they do that, and like they get to work with like obviously Shazam and Aquaman, they had a little bit of horror aspects in them at times. So it's gonna be cool to see what Muschietti does.
It's been weird to like see how many horror directors are getting into like the comic book genre, because like even with like Marvel, Scott Derrickson and now Sam Raimi, like they just keep hiring horror directors, and I'm like, I wonder why. They're doing great jobs with the movies though.
They are, particularly Marvel. Hopefully with DC they kind of step it up a little bit. But I was actually, it's kind of ironic because all the directors for DC that they've used horror directors for, those movies are some of the best in the whole DCEU. So I guess that's a little telling. Maybe just go with more horror directors for this kind of stuff.
Or I mean, they finally hired what female directors, the 2 that they've hired, they've made the best movies in the DCU. So I don't know, hiring people that aren't like straight white men pay off.
It does. So with HBO Max has a bunch of DC projects coming out. They got Green Lantern, Batgirl, Justice League Dark, Static Shock, and yesterday it was revealed that Blue Beetle is going to be an HBO Max exclusive, which
is weird.
It's odd. Like Aquaman made $1 billion. I feel like Blue Beetle could. I feel like
absolutely
Green Lantern
especially
could.
When you think about, when you have underrepresented groups of people on screen and like, you know, the forefront of these movies. They make so much money and they're so successful, and that's because there's so many people who are waiting to see themselves represented on screen. I mean, Black Panther, you know, Captain Marvel, even, you know, there's so many movies that you can point to and be like, this is proof that, you know, these people want to feel represented. And for HBO, well, Warner Brothers to kind of cut that and be like, oh, we're just going to put it on HBO Max. I'm like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too happy about that. And then I saw one tweet earlier. Apparently, something in the initial article that came out when they revealed that Blue Beetle was going to be on HBO Max. It said that he was like an unknown kind of character, and they were a little worried about how he would do in the theaters. Mm-hmm. Iron Man was pretty unknown before the Iron Man movie. Most of the Avengers were kind of as well. So it's like, I don't know.
Very, very weird. I mean, if the Ant-Man movies can make like, you know, $100 million, I'm like, why couldn't Blue Beetle?
Yeah.
And I feel like some people will be like, oh, well, you know, Marvel has like, you know, had its past and was already a big franchise with that. I'm like, we can't, like, even though we don't love the movies, we can't say that the DCEU isn't a successful franchise, because it absolutely is. So its only real flop is Birds of Prey. On like, I don't even want to get into that because it makes me so sad, but its only real flop is Birds of Prey. So there's no reason to kind of have like any argument other than like Warner Bros being stupid and trying to make excuses just to put it on HBO Max, which is just like a way for them to get more subscribers. And I'm like, you can get more subscribers without like putting these like huge movies that like are going to mean a lot to people on your streaming service, instead of like letting them see it in like theaters.
Yeah. Like with HBO Max, like it was just really odd too how Warner Brothers was like, okay, all of this year's movies are going to be on HBO Max and then in the theaters, or just on HBO Max. And it was like, that was weird too as well. And it's just, I don't know, with this whole Discovery Warner Media merger, I'm hoping that they'll change it up a little bit, but putting all the stuff in HBO Max though, I don't think that's a good smart decision, especially with Blue Beetle and Batgirl. I feel like those two in particular could do really well at the box office. So yeah, but hopefully it works out. But of those HBO Max movies and shows, which one are you most excited for?
Oh man, probably Blue Beetle, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the character, and that's like what excites me about comic book movies, is when like they're like, hey, we're gonna make this movie for this like kind of obscure character, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but I'm hyped. That's why Eternals is my like most anticipated movie for the MCU, is because I don't know anything about them. Yeah,
I would say mine is probably Green Lantern. I'm a big Green Lantern guy. Ryan Reynolds' 2011 Green Lantern movie, I don't want to talk about that. That movie was bad.
At least Taika Waititi's in it.
yeah, he was in it. That was funny. Which I didn't even know until a couple years ago. One of my roommates was like, "Yo, Nate, that was Taika Waititi," and I was like, "What?"
I know, right? It's weird because like when you watch it when you're younger, like you obviously don't really. I didn't even know who Ryan Reynolds was, but then like watching it, like it came on TV a few years ago, and I saw Taika Waititi, and I was like, "Has he always been in this movie?"
But with Green Lantern, they cast Finn Wittrock as Guy Gardner, and he's a really good actor, and I think he's going to play a great version of Guy Gardner. But I'm hoping that they do this movie right. Stephen S. Goyer, I think, is involved with it, and he was also involved in the 2011 Green Lantern movie. So a little nervous about that. He's done a bunch of other movies in the past. I think he did some X-Men movies, and so I'm a little nervous about him being involved, but they from everything that I've heard about what it could be about, people that could appear, I'm hopeful. Hopefully it works out. But did you see the Snyder Cut?
I did.
Awesome. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I'm not a huge Snyder person. Nothing personal against him, but his movies just haven't been for me ever. I have this like love-hate relationship with Man of Steel. Like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I love it, and then other times I'm like, it's not really for me. But other than that, like all of his other movies have been like, it's fine. I like Sucker Punch a lot though. That's probably
a really good movie.
Made. But yeah, I like the Snyder Cut significantly more than like any of his other DCU movies. I think it's probably my second favorite movie of his. So yeah, I really like it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Zack Snyder guy either. And like when I saw that he was doing Man of Steel, and then when it came out, he was also doing Batman versus Superman, doing a bunch of DC movies, I was like, not who I'd let run some of the DC movies. I go with someone else, but I liked Man of Steel. It has its problems, but I think it was okay. Batman versus Superman, I think the Ultimate Edition was better than the original one, but even with that, still they're fine. And then obviously the original Justice League movie that has so many problems. That's
not his fault though. Not his fault.
Not his fault at all. Yeah.
No.
And with Snyderverse, or with the Snyder cut, I should say, I liked it a lot more. I think it was great. It definitely made the Flash a lot better, made Cyborg a lot better, and it definitely set up of what the trilogy was going to be perfectly. And I'm hoping that they bring back the Snyderverse someday. I'm hopeful. What do you think about that? Do you think that they'll ever bring it back?
I don't think that they'll ever bring it back right now. According to what Snyder has said, and like what Warner Bros has been seeming like they're like the direction that they're going in right now with the DCU. So right now I'd say no. I won't say it's like impossible and that it won't ever, but as of now, no.
Yeah. Like I remember hearing back in February, like right before the Snyder Cut came out, Snyder said that he went to DC and was like, "Can I do a Snyder or Justice League trilogy for his planned trilogy as a comic book series?" And they were like, "Nope." It's like, even with that, it's like, I don't know why they want to just let him do a comic book series, like a completely standalone kind of story. But hopefully someday it comes back, because I think that movie was great. And did you see the storyboard that came out for the whole trilogy? So in March, like right before the Snyder Cut came out, Zack Snyder revealed the whole storyboard. And basically, it was like the second movie was going to take place with Lex Luthor creating the Injustice League. They were going to literally kill a lot of the Justice League members, and it would be a huge cliffhanger. And then the third movie was going to take place in that nightmare scene. And it would be like, and Will Smith's Deadshot was going to be there as well, helping them. A Green Lantern would come out and try to help them. It would be like 5 years into the future. It's like a big, huge apocalypse. And then by the end, Barry would travel back in time, undo something, reset the whole timeline. Darkseid would still somehow be aware of what happened, and then there would be some whole war that would then break out. But it was interesting. Sounded like it would have been neat to see.
See, the only part of the Snyder Cut that I hated was the nightmare stuff. That was
really, you didn't like it?
I downright hated it. One, because he killed off Harley Quinn, and I'm like, why would you do that to the woman who is leading the DCU other than Wonder Woman, right? Yeah. I'm like, why would you kill off one of the only two huge female characters in the DCU? I took an issue with that. And then also, I just don't like Joker. I don't like Jared Leto's Joker in the DCU. Everything they do with him, I'm like, I am not here for it. And him and Ben Affleck had no chemistry. And I saw some people say that they weren't in the same room, and that's why I was not translating well. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's still not an excuse as to why the scene was bad. You can't be like, oh, well, the scene is bad because of it. And I'm like, well, there's plenty of movies and TV shows where two actors can't be in the same room, and it doesn't translate horribly. So that part was not for me. But other than that, I really like.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Jared Leto guy. I'm a big fan of his band, 30 Seconds to Mars. But when it came out in 2015, ahead of the Suicide Squad movie, with his whole look, I was like, what is this? That was a little too modern for me, I would say. And then obviously the movie was just really bad, and he was terrible. But I feel like he was better in the the Snyder Cut a little bit. It was cool to see him and Batman together on screen for hopefully not the last time. Hopefully someday we got to see Batman and Joker again, because it's been too long for me.
I think Matt Reeves will do Joker.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be in the second movie. I think it'll probably be in the third movie. I think in this first movie we'll probably feel like his energy kind of like lingering. I mean, we kind of saw like Joker goons is what they look like in the trailer. I'm hoping that's who they are, at least, maybe, possibly. But yeah, I do hope that Matt Reeves does do Joker. I don't want it to be Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I want him to cast somebody new, because I would like Joker to stay its like own separate entity, apart from Batman. Like I don't want anything to kind of like interfere with Batman being great. And I'm scared that if they like try and connect like Matt Reeves's Batman movies to like other movies like the DCU or like Joker, I'm like, I don't want it.
Yeah, it could definitely take away from it a little bit. And my dream cast for the Joker is probably Bill Skarsgård.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I think he'd be perfect. I would love to see him and Robert Pattinson go head to head. Everybody wants to see Willem Dafoe, and obviously Pattinson and Dafoe worked with one another on the Lighthouse, so that would be cool. But
I think Willem Dafoe would be great, but I don't know if they're gonna want to do such an older guy. Like I feel like it with what Batman is in the movie, the first movie, which is like year 2, I feel like it'd be hard to kind of have like an older guy come in and try and like connect them somehow. So I think Willem Dafoe would be great, but in like the story context, I don't know how that would work. Sense. I think my dream casting, I've been saying this for a long time, ever since I seen American Animals. I've been saying I think Evan Peters would be a great Joker.
I would love that.
So yeah, he's
awesome.
Definitely my dream casting for Joker right now.
Nice. Yeah, I think he would be perfect. I'm a big Evan Peters guy. And don't even get me started with that whole WandaVision cameo from him. I was like, are you kidding me? He wasn't Quicksilver or anyone.
I can't believe, like, I'm not even mad about that it wasn't Quicksilver. I'm more mad that they wasted such a talented actor like Evan Peters in the way that they did, because I'm like, he could have came into the MCU and like delivered one of the like most intense, like scariest villain performances like ever. Like you could give him like almost any villain character in any of the movies and he would have killed it. So that's why when like the Mephisto stuff started happening, I was like, oh my god, Evan Peters would kill that. And then it just like wasn't. And I'm like, thanks, Marvel, for wasting another great actor once again.
Yeah. I was like, throughout the whole like season, I was thinking that Mephisto would show up, and when they did that, I know each episode had those little tiny like commercial scenes. One of them was with some kid on like some island, and he made a deal with like the shark who got food. I was like, that's a direct connection to making a deal with the devil, and she's done that in the comic book. So I was like, okay, we're getting Mephisto. And no one.
I mean, even with that episode 8, like it definitely seemed like we were going there with like there's a bunch of like stuff in Agatha's like basement that kind of seemed like it would be an Easter egg to Mephisto, and then also that like bug on like the curtain. Like there was so much that I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely doing Mephisto. And then they're like Ralph Boner, and I'm like, okay.
It's like I heard one. I think it might have been a fan theory, or it might have been somebody reporting it. Probably not, but it was probably a fan theory of somebody saying that her bunny could have been Mephisto in disguise, and we could see that in the future. I mean, that would be cool, but I feel like we would have found that out in the show. Yeah, if that was true. But with Mephisto, I think he's got to show up. He's got to show up at some point.
I mean, people are now theorizing with Loki.
Yeah, we're back to that. What's next, Hawkeye?
Have you seen Loki yet? The first episode?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well,
I know that you got to see both of them on Monday.
I have.
So what did you think of them?
First 2 episodes. I love them. It's my favorite start to a Marvel Disney Plus series yet. Not saying that the show will end up being like my overall favorite of the 3 so far, but as of now, it's my favorite. Nice. Yeah. But with the first episode, I don't want to say anything about the second episode because no one has seen it yet, other than like people who got screeners. But with the first episode, there's a shot where there's like it's I don't even know, it's like someone hanging and like it has like a devil face on them. It's like a painting, I believe.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that. So people are going like head in, like being like, oh yeah, Mephisto's in this show for sure, and I'm like, great, we're doing this again.
yeah. And I saw one thing last week. One of the writers came out and he was asked, is anyone big going to have a cameo? And he said, expect the unexpected. So I was like, okay, we're at this again, Disney Plus. Like, they it's like for all these shows, like with WandaVision, it was the aerospace engineer. I was like, okay, it's going to be Reed Richards. And it was no one. And even the actress that plays Monica Rambeau said, like, ahead of the episode that we would find out who it was. Oh, it's going to be someone important. So I was like, we're getting a Reed Richards. We're getting maybe Kit Harington's Dane Whitman from Eternals, something like that. And it was no one. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they said, oh, mystery character appearing in episode 6. And it was Madame Hydra, who I think is a great character, but like a lot of people are like, oh, it should have been someone bigger. Like my whole theory about Falcon and the Winter Soldier was that Red Hulk was going to appear.
That'd be great. Yeah.
That would have been cool. I think that we might get a tease to that in Black Widow.
I hope so. Okay. I think Black Widow, I feel like everyone's like underestimating how important Black Widow might be.
I think it's going to be big.
Because with the trailers, it could just be that the movie is exactly what the trailers are showing. But to me, they're reading more like, hey, there's like a lot of stuff in this movie that we can't show you yet. So we're just going to keep showing you the same thing. Because basically what we've gotten in the trailers is just like the same like shots and like parts of the movie. So I'm like, I'm hoping and praying that this movie doesn't let me down and is just like a like spy thriller. I don't want that. I think that if you're going to make a movie for a dead character, like at least put some like stuff in it that is going to be, you know, important going forward.
Yeah. Who do you think Taskmaster is?
Okay. I want it to be Rachel Weisz. I want Taskmaster to be Rachel Weisz so bad. If she's not, and it's the O something, his name.
OT,
that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking most likely like it's him. And I'll be fine with that. But if Rachel Weisz is Taskmaster, I will absolutely lose my mind. I'll be like, okay, really Black Widow, best MCU movie.
Yeah. Like, and we are going to get Madame Hydra again in that movie. The movie. The actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus is going to be in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it again, like that movie was supposed to come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was going to set it up. So it takes place, I think, 2 years after Civil War, like 7 years before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because the whole blip was like 5 years. So I wonder what kind of tease that we're going to get to the future with her in that movie. Like I know John Walker and Taskmaster, they have an interesting relationship in the comic books, and maybe Taskmaster would train John Walker or something like that. That would be cool.
Is he a part of like Thunderbolts at all?
He is, yeah.
Okay. Because it seems like we're doing Thunderbolts.
I also thought that we were going to get a huge tease to that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
We kind of did.
We did a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, the very end of the show of John Walker getting like the U.S. agent suit finally, and then leaving the stuff with Zemo open-ended definitely feels like we might go there in the future.
Yeah, and he's on the raft, and that's where Abomination is. Who's going to be back in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So maybe the show that everyone at least expected to introduce the Thunderbolts and She-Hulk might be where we get the Thunderbolts.
I mean,
that'd be cool.
I hope so.
Yeah, like I really want to see them badly, and I've heard from like a lot of people. They say, "Oh, I don't think Marvel Studios should go with the Thunderbolts. It's too similar to the Suicide Squad." I don't think Marvel cares. I don't think they care.
A lot of things in like both the DCU and MCU that are super similar. I'm like, why draw the line here? Like,
like, and it's
they're different characters. Like, it might be like the same like idea, but they're different characters.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like with like the Thunderbolts, they're bad guys who literally like want to be superheroes. Like with the Suicide Squad, they're just doing
bad guys,
good guy things to
still bad guys.
Yeah, and like they're trying to get years off their sentence and whatnot. It's like. It's different, but I think we'll definitely get Thunderbolts soon. I hope so. And that'll be cool. And so what's your most anticipated DC movie?
I mean, DCEU?
Yeah, besides the Batman.
I don't know. Probably Shazam too, because I do really love Shazam. If we weren't talking about movies that are like for sure in development, I would say Kathy Ann's Birds of Prey sequel. That is probably never happening, but
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird how DC went through that stretch where they announced like 30 different movies in the span of like 2 years. And then it was like I feel like they waited too long to do the DCEU. They should have started in like 08 or like 09, like right when the MCU was going on.
Or just have a better plan.
Yeah.
And not so reactionary.
Yeah, not try to like rival the MCU.
Yeah, if something doesn't like, get the reviews that you want it to get or make the box office that you want it to make, like don't just like hurry up and like scramble and be like, oh, we got to change everything.
Yeah, I would say my most anticipated is probably, honestly, I'd probably say The Flash. Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. Like with Muschietti being in there, it's gonna be cool to see what they do. I've heard that it could be about Flashpoint, but there's no Reverse Flash, which would make no sense to me. You got to have the Reverse Flash if it's Flashpoint. That's the whole point of Flashpoint. But with Muschietti being a horror guy, I think that would be cool to see like Bill Skarsgård play Reverse Flash.
Yeah,
kind of have him be like kind of like a scary kind of guy.
I think Flash would be great if they integrated like horror elements into it, especially if you're doing like Flashpoint. I think that'd be so cool and a way to kind of make it seem different than what we're already seeing on like the CW Flash. So
do you
because they've already done like everything.
Yeah. Do you still watch the CW Flash?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, I gave up after like season 3 or season 4.
I didn't even get that far. I watched I think half of season 2 and it already fell off for me like half through season 2.
Yeah, like Eobard Thawne, Reverse Flash, that was the best part of that show. Season 1 was great, and then season 2 they tried to do like Reverse Flash Jr. with Zoom, and it was just like enough of this. And season 3 was just it was real bad. It's like they ran out of villains almost. Like they went through that stretch where they like didn't use any speedsters.
It's probably because they did like that villain of the week thing, like super like quickly. Like with the first season, like half of the first season is kind of like villain of the week stuff, and then we get in like Reverse Flash. So
yeah, that was a nice way to knock off all of his best villains, and then you out of ideas for the main villains.
Yeah,
the whole CW DC Arrowverse or whatever they're calling it now, just real bad.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people do like it. I mean, I am one for, campy superhero stuff, but there comes a point where it's like you have to have a good balance for it to like be successful and like translate well. That's why like I love like Chapter 2, I love Shazam, I love Far From Home. I think those are great like new superhero like or just like blockbusters that how to integrate camp and also be great. And for the CW, they just like they don't have that balance. Even with like something like Riverdale, I'm like, you guys just don't know how to pull it off.
Yeah. With that show, they kind of just they try to do like too dark, and it's like it's Archie Comics. It's like happy go lucky kind of thing, and they're just going with like a murder right in like the first episode. It's like, whoa, it's not Archie Comics.
Yeah, it's like they try and do like the most ridiculous thing that they can think of, but also have these like really like serious like in like dark moments, and I'm like, you gotta have like a balance. Like it just seems like so like up and down throughout the entire show, and it just doesn't translate like the way you're hoping it will. So
even their Nancy Drew show, like it's good, but they go too supernatural with that show.
Yeah, and it's like with teen supernatural shows, you really gotta, understand the balance. Teen Wolf is one of my favorite shows, the MTV Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the few like supernatural like teen shows that understand like how to like have great characters, be ridiculous, have fun, but also, have that emotional core to the show. And something like I think of like Vampire Diaries, that's on the CW too, and I'm like, you guys just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just falls under that classic CW trope where they just go with like the teen kind of like dramedy, and then they just start off pretty good, and then they just fall right off after like a first season or like a second season. Yeah, it's
deeply depressing.
It is, yeah. So, are you an X-Men fan?
I am.
Okay. How do you think that they're gonna involve the X-Men into the MCU?
I don't
That's gonna be
know.
hard. Yeah.
It's gonna be so hard because like the big question that everyone's asking is like, where have they been all this time?
Yeah.
You know, you can't have like millions of people with this like X gene that just pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Same. It's like it's different with Fantastic Four because they weren't born with their powers. X-Men are, so you can like just have Fantastic Four pop up anywhere and kind of put them in and be like, oh, they got their powers now.
Yeah.
But with X-Men, it's totally different because like you got to explain like where these people have been since birth.
Yeah.
I genuinely have no idea, and I don't think that I could ever think of an idea that would be, you know, like reasonable enough that would seem like tangible. So I'm definitely curious to see what Kevin Feige comes up with.
That's why we have Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige I trust.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm more excited to see who like what talent he's gonna hire. Behind the camera. I'm sure he'll make all the great decisions for, you know, the casting. He always does. But with the director of the X-Men, I feel like that's just so important to find somebody who, you know, understands the characters like a Matt Reeves understands Batman.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Joe and Anthony Russo, they've said in the past that they really want to do Wolverine and that they want to do something with the X-Men. I feel like bringing them back would be cool because they obviously they nailed Captain America, they nailed the Avengers, they've done all that. I feel like giving them the opportunity to do an X-Men movie or just do like a solo movie for a certain X-Men character would be really neat. So I'd be on board for that. But like with me, I think an easy way to get the X-Men into the MCU would be like have Charles Xavier just pop up out of nowhere and just be like saying something or just like reveal something where like he made everybody in like the universe or like on the planet forget about the X-Men.
Right.
Like he's kind of like he has the ability to like tap into everyone's minds on the planet. So I feel like that would just be too easy though. Maybe not. It would be a little silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why we have Kevin Feige, and I think he's the perfect guy to do it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And he was involved in those X-Men movies in like the beginning, like 2000, 2002.
Yeah, he was like involved with like almost everything like Marvel before the MCU, which just, you know, kind of puts kind of makes us, I think, put more trust into him, knowing that he's been with like this franchise for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, and who's your favorite X-Men character?
Oh man, I mean, Rogue. I do love Rogue.
Nice.
She was the inspiration on my hair.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is probably, you know, I love Quicksilver. I do. I love Quicksilver. I think I always kind of like gravitate towards like the more like quirky characters, and I think Quicksilver is like 100% that. Like even like in the MCU and at the end. The X-Men movies, he has this like fun quirky personality, and that's the kind of characters I see myself in. Yeah,
I'm a big Beast guy. I think Beast is awesome. It's cool to kind of see like kind of like a Hulk kind of character.
Yeah,
so that's as like a monster kind of, so that's cool. Big Wolverine fan, and here's a hot take for you. I know I tell this to a lot of people, and they say Nate, you're crazy, that's stupid. I'm not a big Hugh Jackman fan. With his Wolverine.
I've never heard anyone say that. Like I've heard people say like they had like reservations about him at first, but then after watching the movies, they're like in love with him. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever heard someone say that they don't like him.
Yeah, I feel like if it was a little tiny bit overhyped. Logan though was perfect. I think he was great in Logan, and in some of the X-Men movies he was great. But I don't know. Just something about it just always felt off to me.
You know what? I disagree because I love him, but also I understand because I think that with somebody like Logan, you never really see vulnerability like a whole lot. And I feel like Hugh Jackman comes off as like a vulnerable guy a lot of the time. And sometimes I feel like there could be a disconnect there because like even with Logan, like that's the most emotional I think like X-Men movie, but for a majority of the movie there's like no vulnerability at all. It's just like a big wall. And Hugh Jackman, he seems very like sensitive. I feel like you can see that like no matter what, and that's why like when people were fan casting Hugh Jackman for Joel in the Last of Us series, I was like, I don't see it necessarily because of that. But yeah, I guess I can kind of understand because I see that in it. That kind of makes a disconnect for me.
Okay. Yeah. Who would you cast as Wolverine? I know a lot of people really want to see Tom Hardy. I think that would be interesting.
I think it'd be interesting. I don't think that's a great fan cast though.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting though. Oh man.
A lot of people wanted Keanu Reeves, and I don't see that at all.
I don't see that at all either.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm like trying to think. That's like such a big character, you know?
Yeah.
That I wouldn't want to. I'm like looking at my wall, trying to see if there's anyone. Oh. Yeah, I don't know, actually.
Yes.
I probably have people for days for other fan casts, but for Wolverine, I'm like...
that's a tough one. Yeah. I can't even think of anyone.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, no one, like, immediately comes up.
Yeah. I guess, like, Tom Hardy is just, like, the easy choice, but even with that, I just don't really see it.
Yeah, I feel like Tom Hardy is, like... It's weird when people play, like, these, like, iconic, like, comic characters and then you try and put them in another comic book movie because then you just automatically associate them with the other comic character. I mean, everyone loved him as Bane. I don't think like anyone like hates Tom Hardy as Bane, so it's kind of an iconic performance, especially in like a Nolan movie. So yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a tough one.
I think Colin Farrell actually would be a cool choice.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think Colin Farrell would be a really cool choice for Wolverine, actually.
It was weird. Oscar Isaac was actually one of my choices for a while. And then he got cast as Moon Knight, which was just too perfect. I mean, I'm a big, huge Moon Knight fan. So I was really excited when they announced the show, and then they got Oscar Isaac. And Ethan Hawke playing the villain. That's going to be cool.
Especially like knowing that Ethan Hawke has like a disinterest in comic book stuff.
Yeah, I was like, that's weird.
So the show has to be good for him to have gotten on board. I mean, he's talked about the reason why he signed on is because of Oscar Isaac. But I'm hoping that there's more to it and the show is like actually just that good for him to be all in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anyone to play Wolverine.
I know. I'm like looking through like
and I'm sure Marvel Studios will announce someone and everyone's just gonna be like, oh my god, that's perfect. I never saw that. That's perfect idea, perfect choice.
I'd love if they got like a no name.
Yeah.
Honestly. I think that Marvel, I've been saying this ever since like the John Krasinski and like Emily Blunt stuff came up for Fantastic Four, and that I prefer if Marvel went out and got like no names for the Fantastic Four because they've put so many like actors like on the map with, you know, these huge characters and we didn't really like have them on our radars before. I mean, Tom Holland probably like the most obvious example of them going
Anthony
out and
Mackie maybe.
Going out and getting people who are like, oh, we don't really know who that is, but we're excited to see the character. And then once we see them on screen, we're like, they're perfect, like absolutely perfect. So I would love if they did that for Wolverine. Especially since Hugh Jackman was kind of like a no-name when he was cast as Wolverine. He was doing like Broadway stuff before that. So
yeah, definitely back to it again. And Kevin Feige, I trust.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he'll get the right person. Winston Duke would have been good.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm so excited to see more of Winston Duke. I think he's so talented.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Yeah.
I had one fan cast for him that I felt would have been perfect. Can't think of it right now. I think it was a DC movie, maybe. Can't think of it. Yeah. Well, another Marvel movie that's coming out is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And news broke a few days ago. It hasn't been confirmed or anything that Namor has been cast in the movie. And you brought up some interesting stuff about that actor, and I wasn't aware about that, but definitely think that they should go with somebody else.
I think they will for sure.
Getting a lot of pushback from fans.
Yeah, Disney has definitely proven that once they see a little controversy online, they will act.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it with
James
Gunn. Like, they immediately fired him. And then more recently, Gina Carano, that took a little longer for them to, fire her. But this is a case of he hasn't been, like, officially cast yet. So I think it would be easier for them to, find a replacement. So yeah, if any of you don't know why we're saying that he needs to be replaced, it's because he, not even a year ago, he wrote some like slurs for, trans people and gay people in tweets and stuff like that. So it's not great.
Yeah. Definitely. Hopefully, hopefully they go with what everyone's been saying, and it was never confirmed that it was him. So hopefully they'll announce in like maybe a week or like a month or something. Breaking news: so and so is playing Namor, and it's not that guy; it's somebody else.
Yeah,
because with that stuff being known, it would be kind of weird for Disney to just hire that guy. So that's why I don't.
Yeah,
not sure if I really believe that much, but hopefully they go with somebody else. I think that they definitely will.
Yeah,
definitely very, very weird. But Namor being in the movie is interesting. He's a mutant. He has Fantastic Four ties, so it's going to be cool to see him in that movie.
I don't know much about Namor, but from what I do know, I'm like, that's pretty exciting, especially in like a Black Panther movie.
yeah, it'd be awesome to see like Wakanda versus Atlantis.
Yeah,
that'd be so cool. And it was kind of teased in Endgame when Black Widow was talking about earthquakes underneath the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So that was neat. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I think Namor is a great character. He has Fantastic Four ties. He's a mutant, so maybe they can introduce the X-Men through Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah, and Black Panther and Storm have been a couple in the comics. So yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think this movie I'm really excited for. I'm really interested to see where they go with obviously Chadwick Boseman not being with us anymore. I think it's gonna be neat to see. Do they go with Shuri? Do they just go with somebody else, or does Eric Killmonger somehow come back?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I don't know.
How do you think they'll do it?
I don't know. I think I'm fine with just about anything. It's just if they didn't retire T'Challa, I think that would have rubbed me the wrong way and a lot of other people. So I think they definitely made the right decision with not recasting T'Challa. Yeah. But I think I'd be fine with just about like any replacement that they, think of. I think that if they, decided to introduce a new character instead of, going with Shuri, I think that'd be great. Or if they did go to Shuri, but also the actress kind of has some controversy around her now because she was like very openly anti-vax on Twitter. So that was a big thing. I think M'Baku would be a great choice for, to step up as Black Panther.
I don't think again. He would be perfect.
Yeah. I don't think that they'll do Eric Killmonger because he's just like done too many bad things for him to ever be Black Panther.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested, and I'm not gonna I guess I won't be mad if for whatever they announce.
Yeah, I'd be down with anything. But I think Shuri would be really cool. But M'Baku would be perfect. I think that'd be awesome to see Winston Duke headline a Black Panther movie.
I even think Nakia would be a great choice.
Yeah.
To step up. So I think there's a million and one different decisions that they can make that would be cool.
Yeah, they could do really anything, and Marvel could do anything, and I'd be completely on board with it.
I'm mostly on board with everything they announce until I see it because I trust Marvel and Kevin Feige so much.
Yeah. Only one I wasn't on board with is Iron Man 3.
I love Iron Man 3.
Really? Okay.
I'm a big Shane Black person. I love Shane Black. So there was like no way for me not to love that movie.
Yeah. Thor: The Dark World. No, that's probably my least favorite MCU movie.
Yeah, and
what would be your least favorite?
Probably Incredible Hulk. I think that movie's so boring. And I think that the only reason why I put Thor: The Dark World over that is because Loki and Thor's relationship in that movie is really great. And I think that movie's really pretty too. I think it's one of the prettier MCU movies. So I give Thor: The Dark World a pass. I don't think any like MCU movie is like terrible though. I don't think that they've had like a smack on its face like flop yet. So
they've all done well, and I enjoy all of them. It's really tough to choose a least favorite because they're all great. I'm not a big Ant-Man guy, so maybe the first Ant-Man movie might actually be my least favorite, but
I don't really like the Ant-Man movies that much either. I don't gravitate towards them.
Yeah, like with Quantumania coming out, it'll be cool to see Jonathan Majors playing Kang.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be awesome to see him play a main villain.
I just wish they hired a new director.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing where I'm like, the Ant-Man movies, they should be like so fun in their direction and just feel like so like different and quirky. And they just don't. They just fall so flat because they have such a boring director attached to them. So whatever.
And Marvel really, I would say that their only mess up is probably getting rid of Edgar Wright.
Oh, for sure.
The Ant-Man movie. That would have been perfect.
100%. That's Marvel's biggest loss by like a mile.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I think that'll do it for the show. Thank you for being on, Hannah. It was perfect.
Of course. Thank you.
It was great.